let's get over to our main theme for the night. Please give a round of applause and respectfulness for the evening. I said for them, not for AJ. AJ will do the grilling. But give a hands for, what is it, Google Sunshine? What is it?
Google Sunshine and Happiness.
Oh, sorry, Sunshine and Happiness, which, how's it looking out today? Yes, it's looking pretty good out today. So,
Chief of Sunshine and Happiness.
oh, Chief of Sunshine and Happiness. Ooh. All right. So, Chief of Sunshine and Happiness, Gary. Oh,
It's one of my first questions.
okay. Well, Chief of Sunshine and Happiness, Gary. Give a hand together for him.
All right, so we're going to have a little bit of an interesting event tonight because I'm going to pass this back and forth. I have one that works in this room, so bear with us. I'm also going to hopefully give something a little bit different than some of the other Q&A that Gary's gotten. So bear with me. I'm also going to talk sometimes, hopefully pretty technically, and you might sort of be able to play along, sometimes not, but hopefully at the end of the day you'll get something out of it. So let's get going. Is it Gary or Gary? No, okay, so what is the last name? How do we pronounce it, just for the sanity of everyone here?
So the last name is Hungarian because my mother was Hungarian, and that means that the double L and the Y, that's U, like in yes. So it's ish.
Okay, so we got Ish. Can everybody say that again so we all commit it to memory?
Oh, you're going to forget it.
No, we're not. All right. Now, I want to get through some of the traditional questions which you might have gotten recently, and get through sort of the sky is falling issues that the SEO community is sort of talking about. So, first one was robots.txt and dropping the no index, unsort of stated directive for no index in robots.txt. Which I was happy to see dropped myself. I know you were the same. I'm not really going to talk about that, but I'm more interested in how often do you analyze robots.txt? What are you analyzing? Do you look at, what robots they're blocking? If more people are blocking Moz, do you look at Moz more? And is there any chance of sending out notifications based on you screwing up your robots.txt?
He says that he will ask one question and then he asks like 7. I already forgot the first one, just so you know. So how often we analyze robots.txt? Basically, we have a continuous monitoring system, basically that looks for patterns in how people misuse robots.txt. For example, if a big company, let's say Disney, puts out robots.txt that suddenly blocks everything, then we would get an alert. I don't think that this happened with Disney specifically, I just know that they are somewhere there. And I wanted to mess with them. Yeah, so, but for the no index specifically, and there were also a few other rules that we had support implemented for. It's just people didn't know about them. No index was the one that someone from Google publicized. No, it was not leaking. It was. So Matt was trying to be helpful, and he sometimes told people to use no index in robots.txt for very specific things. I don't remember the last one. I was on the thread, but I don't remember what was the issue. But basically he was saying that, okay, this particular issue that you have, this is the easiest to resolve with this no index, but don't use it for anything else. because you're going to screw yourself over. And that person told someone else, and then that person told someone else, and then if you look, then on GitHub there's a robots.txt sample file for blocking bad bots, and basically it's sprinkled with no indexes in it, and the user agent field is actually misspelled, which means that we are going to ignore the user agent field because, well, it's misspelled. So basically, no index everything, which means that if you use that sample robots.txt file and you are a novice webmaster, or you don't even want to be a webmaster, you just heard from someone that your mom and pop site needs robots.txt and you copy that over, then your site will never show up in search results because, well, would have never showed up in search results because we would have respected the no index there. And over 99.99% of the robots.txts that had no index in them were those robots.txts, where people were actively screwing their sites over. And that was the main reason that I got approval for removing it, because essentially we were obeying batshit stupid rules. People didn't know what they are doing with the no index there, and they were just not showing up in search. And for us, I mean, you can think that like it's a mom and pop site, probably they would get like 5 impressions a month or whatever. But for those sites, like they set up a website, right? They do want to show up in search because they set up a website. They put up a robots.txt that was blocking bad robots. They didn't understand what they are doing. Educating them like that generally doesn't really work. That's why I'm doing Q&As and going to PopCons. But the solution was to remove, the easiest solution to help everyone was to remove no index. I know that some people, especially on Twitter, were very, what's the right word? Mental. Yeah, that sounds about right. About us removing no index. I think, thinking that it was about them, it's a little bit arrogant, and they wouldn't understand that it was not about them, but the other 99.99% who had no idea what they are doing. So this number that I'm citing, this was a one-off analysis. Basically, I took all the robots.txts that had no index in them, parsable no index, and then on a significant sample looking at how they are used. That's how I discovered that most of the robots.txts these robots.txts are actually duplicates, and then trace back the source and then look for patterns and well.
So right on the heels of that, we go with the no-follow changes, right? Everybody's up in arms about no-follow, right? Oh my God, no-follow. I don't like no-follow just from the get-go. After you remove the ability to use it for page sculpting, for me it was just sort of dead. But I'm not saying it was a good thing, I'm saying you set it up that way, so I'm going to take advantage of it, but once that was gone, it was like, okay, let's not use that anymore and find better ways. I'm more interested in, so I do have a number of questions, so I'll just like 2 maybe, how about that? Did you make the change because you made something in a dev environment that basically said, hey, if we use this no-follow data, does it get better? So is that one of the ways that you qualified, hey, we need to start to bring this? And the second one would be, what are you more excited about, the link graph value or the anchor text and sort of co-located text related to those?
So I want to step back first. What did we actually announce? We announced that from that day, we are able to use nofollow links for ranking purposes. And from 1st of March or something, we can use for discovery and crawling as well, if we decide. Now, if you read the announcement again, then we didn't announce a ranking change. We didn't announce that we are actually using nofollow links from that day in link graph or ranking or anywhere else. What we announced is that we are able now to use those links. That said, it was one of my most exciting launches because I spent lots of time in countries where, well, they are not as advanced internet-wise. Basically, the sites are different than in the US or in Europe. And there, people who manage those sites are, for a good reason, they are scared of getting, for example, a manual action for bad linking. And that's on us. That's our fault. But that also means that they are pretty much no-following everything. Like every outgoing link is no-follow. Which, for a search engine that uses links for ranking, is not that good.
Not the best.
Yeah, not the best. So if you think about, like, half of the internet is outside the US and Europe, then essentially you're blind to the links, to links on half of the internet. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it's kind of like that. How we are going to use nofollow links, I don't know. There was no ranking launch with this change. But if you think about it, one of the most useful things that come from links is anchor text, for example, which gives you an idea about what the other page is and what the topic will be on the other page. That's why click here is a bad anchor text. Just FYI. And it also helps us understand, once we can crawl through those links after 1st of March, to what's actually on the other side. Like, for example, if someone is linking to malware, we would be able to see that, which can be quite useful in some cases. Do you want to also ask about the sponsored and whatever crap?
The what? Oh, the stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted to know if you wanted us to use rel widget.
No.
Okay. You already know those links are widget.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's just label data for you guys to...
Yeah, so essentially about the rel sponsored and the rel UGC is just label data. Like, if you want to help us with that, basically labeling links for us and help us train algorithms, then thank you. If you don't want to, that's also perfectly fine. Like, you're not getting in trouble for that. But the nofollow thing you still have to use, just as you used for the past 10 years.
That was Matt's, right?
I also don't like nofollow. Like, I wanted to change nofollow for, well, ever since Matt left. Now I actually found an ally to do it. Basically, one night I was actually in India, and I was struggling convincing Times of India to remove nofollow from their pages, and actually Paul Hart dropped an email that, hey, I have this idea. It's like, oh, thank goodness. So yeah, I was super excited about it.
All right, snippets. So you did come up with a whole bunch of new snippet tags, very arcane and detailed snippets, which seem to be a reaction to potentially publishers complaining about what turns up in their snippets. But I got a bunch of questions about snippets beyond that, so let's talk generally, how are snippets Is the pipeline for snippets different than the pipeline, how it comes? So do they come with doc info? Is it stored in a different place? How is success measured with
I think
snippets?
that most people don't know what document is.
Maybe you can explain.
Well, maybe you can because you weren't using it.
I know enough to be dangerous. Doc info. So basically, during candidate selection, you bring back all that stuff, and there's doc info attributes about those documents. Is that close? Okay. This is how you find out things. All right. So I'm interested in sort of how those snippets are, if they're, because I've seen mismatches in terms of what's in the snippets versus what's on the page, and so it makes me believe that there's different repository for the snippet data. And so I just want to understand how that is and how snippet satisfaction or sort of success is measured.
So actually the way snippets are generated are not that different. I mean, the data for snippet generation comes back with a response from the index. So like you're saying doc info, I basically I would say composite doc, for example. Well, actually I wouldn't say composite doc, I would say doc repository. But basically in the thing that comes back from the index, we have all the tokens, keywords that we found in the page after rendering. That means and their location and also extra annotations about them. For example, if it was bold or if it was italic or crap like that. It's not that useful, but like for snippeting, it can be quite useful. And then the snippeting algorithm will actually reconstruct from there the snippet. And that's it. Like there's not all that much magic behind it. The magic comes into when it comes to not selecting bad passages. So for example, if a passage is stuffed with emojis, for example, then you probably don't want that in the snippet unless that's the only thing that you can have. Or with the new snippet attributes, or then there's data no snippet, which will launch in or will become active in like a week or so. It was already announced, but anyway, like with that, we will still have those tokens in the repository. It will just mean that the snippeting algorithm will not be allowed to pick from those passages tokens, and basically that's it.
This is different than the featured snippet.
Yes. So feature snippet, that's basically an extra algorithm that actually bids for its location. So I don't know if you know, but the search result page is actually an immense auction place. So every single thing that you see on the page, including ads, map pack, and whatever, they are actually bidding for those places. And whoever wins a bid for example, the second position, then gets that place. Whoever wins the first, the bid for the first position gets that placed. But first position is usually restricted. So, for example, there are certain features that probably may not appear on first position, which gives more space for feature snippets. But feature snippet actually looks for passages that relate to the query more than just like a normal snippet. So it will try to pick passages that are more complete in an effort to better help the user decide whether they need to click through or not.
And how is success measured for the featured snippets? Because they turn over a lot, right? You'll see them people see them, right? You get
So-
two snippets, right? You'll be like,
so-
I get them. Oh, now I don't. Now I have them. Now I don't.
So there are a few things. One thing is that usually when you see, not just for feature snippet, but also for other results, when you see that sometimes they are there, sometimes they are not there, sometimes they are there, sometimes they are not there, then that just means that the bid is very close to someone else's bid. So for example, if you see that you have, let's say on the second position a result, and then every day, like sometimes it goes up to the first position, beating your competitor. The second day, or even just in a few hours, it goes down to second, and then go up, go down, go up, go down. That just means that the scores are utterly close to each other, which means that you have a chance to add something that will like boost your score enough that will get you the first position for more stably. I just made up a word, I think.
Many presidents
In a more stable way. And like for example, if you are not yet on HTTPS with your URLs, that would be exactly what it can do for you. Basically, give you that edge that makes you beat your competitor. Say again?
Not only the content aspect, but there's no content as well.
Well, you can use, so yeah, you can use content as well. Basically anything at that point that can give you that little extra to be more stable in the first position.
Does better tuning of the actual intent about what the actual person wants, if I give better information about that, help you up actually be, something you guys are machine learning and AI, that's your approach using the target. So if I give you better data about how to tune that and exactly what the intent is.
So the question is whether
Better intent.
better tuning the intent of the page will give you that edge. It can. I wouldn't go down to the ML or machine learning AI path. The way it will help you is more traditional, basically more extracting the right tokens and ranking you better for those tokens.
Like schema.org and some of the other stuff.
The schema.
Took it offline.
So schema is kind of weird. Any schema that you add to your pages will help us better understand the page, but in the sense that we will be able to better see entities in the page, entities that can be mapped to, well, entities in KG, in knowledge graph. And during retrieval, and this was roughly Hummingbird, I think, like we would use those entities for retrieval and, well, further down, to rank pages better. So schema can help you, but indirectly, not in the sense that it will boost your pages. I think schema.org, schema to your pages, or structured data to your pages is not a direct ranking factor, but us and other search engines as well, better understanding your pages can give you more relevant traffic.
So you travel a lot.
Sure.
How many days do you travel?
About 300, 310 days a year.
Holy. Any chances of you slowing down, or are you gonna keep? No.
I like it.
You like it. All right. So you're in a lot of places, and you're probably doing a lot of searching, which means we're going to talk about local.
Okay.
So let's just. I'll ask two questions. One, how does Google determine which queries get localized? Right, just on a base. So like I have a client where last year holds query class, no local pack. Wake up in March of 2019 and suddenly, hey, 40% of the queries now have a local pack. So when does that kick in? And then the second one is, how is sort of the ranking, so let's maybe talk about the auction model at the local level, right? So if I have sushi bars, right, and I'm let's not say Yelp, because Yelp just is number one all the time, but if I'm next one behind Yelp, and I'm some company, I said, hey, I have sushi bars around the country. In Los Angeles, maybe I'm number 2, but in Philadelphia, I'm off the first page. So how is
Are we
that?
talking about local results or we are talking about blue links?
We're talking about blue links. Blue links for both.
So, for the first question, like how it is decided that, I will make something up, query deserves local, that's...
QDL.
Yeah, I know. If you want to like shorten it, then it's just Fred. So I will answer. I will give a general answer. Like, how does it work for universal? Because local results, if we are talking about maps, for example, map results that have the what's this called, map pack, right? I think. That's a universal result. Basically, it's coming from the maps repository, map index. Basically, at that level, it's clicking on the search result page. So, for example, if we see that someone is searching for Deadpool trailer, and they are not satisfied with the 10 blue links because, well, why would they be? They will very likely click on the video tab, and then they will continue their search there. That was a hint, right? Like, it was quite a strong hint that that user was not looking for 10 blue links. So the second time, when a user does a search for Deadpool trailer, then we can, and obviously I'm simplifying, like it will not be the second user, but I don't know, the 1000th user will do the same thing and then clicks on video, and then the next user will actually get video back. Because we saw that people were actually going to the video results, so it makes more sense to have at least the top ranking ones for that query in between the 10 blue links. As for ranking locally or on metro level, the 10 blue links, that's actually a theme I was working on for quite some time. And that goes down mostly to signals that you are in control of, especially on metro level. And I will not tell you those signals.
Fair enough.
Because you are in control of them. Which means that if there's
If you give it to SEOs, we will run with it.
well, not all SEOs, but if you have a Jeff, for example, in the room, then he can ruin everything. Obviously, there are other signals as well, but those are basically one of those secret sources that I will not talk about.
Okay. All right, so there we go. So local, in our control, we don't know what it is, so go back and think hard about it. All right. So let's stick with the locality thing and let's talk about hreflang. Do you like hreflang? I'm getting the sense no liking hreflang. So I have one thing that I've noticed, and then maybe you can comment about it. The documentation says when you use hreflang, you can translate the wrapper, the outside, and the main content can stay the same. And when you do hreflang, you say that's great. My experience is that within the last year, maybe 18 months, Google said, nah, unless you translate everything, we're not going to obey your hreflang, and we're going to just do .com. I think that has a lot to do with mobile and the fact that there's no TLD in mobile, so there's no benefit to showing that. But thoughts thoughts about that and whether or not we'll have a replacement for hreflang, maybe in the HTTP header or something? I don't know. Well, you can now, but maybe something different.
So hreflang was basically I rewrote large. Well, actually, the hreflang parsing and ranking components I actually rewrote about like 5 years ago with back then TL Christopher Senters, if you know him. You probably met him. He was just not saying who he was. And we sat for weeks in a room trying to come up with something easier, and we couldn't. Basically, we were ready to re-implement something that is simpler, but if you think about it, hreflang is already the most basic thing that you can do. Basically, from one page, you tell that it has a sibling page. And then from that sibling page, you say that the other sibling is, well, you're pointing back. Like, that's basically one-to-one. Like, I don't know how to make that simpler. And it's readable. That was one of the concerns, that like we could introduce IDs or hashes, but then like people confuse URLs already because one has a question mark at the end, the other one doesn't, and then basically people use the wrong one, for example, in an hreflang setup. If we introduce hashes, it would just get worse, like way worse. And at every single international search summit where I go, and Bill Hunt is there, Bill Hunt is one of the best hreflang people that I know. I tell him and everyone in the room that if you have a better idea, I'm absolutely open to it. But over the years, we just couldn't come up with something simpler. It's a pain for us internally because the clusters are usually immense, and it uses lots of space. And like if you have like 1 million pages, that's probably not that bad. It's extra few tens of terabytes. But if you have a Facebook-like site, that's not a few terabytes. That's going to be petabytes when you have, I don't know how many, 29 pages or something like that. So for us, like something simpler would also be extremely beneficial. But we just don't have anything better at the moment. As for ranking, I gave up, or I handed over hreflang to a new team like 4 years ago. I don't know what they are doing with it. We had plans, for example, to look more closely at the language of the page, because we've seen we have continuous metrics, continuous testing for hreflang that are basically percent experiment running continuously to see how people react to the results that were provided by the hreflang pipeline. So basically, let's say that someone is searching for, I don't know, something. That's probably not that good. Shoes in Spanish in Spain. Then traditionally, what we would have done without hreflang is give the US Spanish page for that user, because we probably didn't know about the Spanish country page. With hreflang, we would still retrieve the Spanish US page, but then in that repository that we get, there's also information about that the Spanish page. So we do a second retrieval just for that page, and we bring it up, and we either serve it together with the US Spanish, or we swap them out on serving time. But it happened very often that like people just put up ES US, ES ES, and then just have the template translated, and that was not that useful. Not for the users, not for us. So I can certainly see that someone would have made a choice that okay, we will actually look actively to the or for the language of the page. I don't know if that's the case, but we did have plans like that.
Let's talk about food, because I know that's something you like. Yep.
Well, that's a big twist.
I know. Well, I got to segue somehow, right? So, let's go 3 questions on food. Favorite country for food?
Japan.
Japan. Favorite food?
Papua India.
Ooh, okay. And most hated food?
Anything lamb.
Anything lamb. Okay. And since we're talking about food, you know, let's talk about eat, right? Come on, everybody saw that coming, right? No? Jeez. All right. So here's the thing. I hate eat. I hate the dumbed down version of the algorithm. I despise it. I don't hide that. Because I think there's a lot more going on that rolls up into those things, and that's the stuff that I want to talk about. Gary's like, get me out of here.
Forcefully.
So I want to talk about sort of the ways in which eat is really established. Meaning, let's not talk about like eat as things, but like what changes to the algorithm. I would be talking about things like, hey, if you're looking at making health content better, do you use something like BayAreaSearch, which is a biomedical sentence vector package to sort of understand biomedical text better? And he's grinning here, I don't know what that means or not.
This is similar to your previous docking thing.
I read stuff, I try and figure it out, and then I ask the questions. Sometimes I'm probably right, most often I'm probably wrong. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out what is it that's going on, particularly for me in the vector space. I'm assuming that if Google sees dangers of nose job and side effects of rhinoplasty surgery, they interpret those things potentially as different in authority. So let's talk about just how you look at text and how text signals might actually produce real changes to that.
So this is one of the spaces where I actively don't want to give too much away. Like I don't care about giving away like how snippeting works, because like if you don't know, then it will not change all that much. In the YMYL space, it can be actually really harmful, and it may dangerous for people. I had it was not an argument, but a nasty conversation at BobCon. After my keynote, someone who's very popular in the EAT space, in the public EAT space, approached me, and they asked me if I can help with one of the client sites, because the client site is not ranking after pretty much anywhere after one of the core updates. And I was like, well, that sounds like they were in one of the YMYL spaces, right? And they were like, yeah, yeah, exactly. And I'm like, so what are they doing? And this person tells me that the site is alternative medicine. So like okay, but my father died of cancer. I'm quite. it's a touchy topic for me, like the alternative medicine. And like if someone tries to convince me that carrot juice can cure cancer, then I will probably leave. And I tell this person the same thing, and they responded with, oh, but it's nothing bad like that. Basically, I think and they give me an example that they actually say there's no harm in trying an alternative medicine for flu if you have the flu. And I look at them and I'm like, people die of flu. Like, people actually die because of the flu. They have to get proper medical attention, not essential oils or whatnot. And obviously they didn't like that answer. They told me that they would send me an email. I told them that I appreciate that, but I will not answer. And basically that's pretty much what I want to talk about EAT. Obviously there's, like EAT is, as you said, it's a dumbed down version of what the algorithms do. We say core algorithm. It's not one algorithm. Like that's already a simplified version. It's probably millions of little algorithms working together in unison to provide relevant and quality results for users. And in YMYL space, also results that are endorsed by the scientific community in general. This is in the Reuters guidelines. So, like, I'm citing from there basically. EAT is something that we came up with that we can give to the raters, those who evaluate our changes before actually launching them, that would explain to them what are we aiming for with our algorithms. There's no one score. Like thinking that there will be one score, one EAT score, that's silly. Thinking that cleaning up your link profile, for example, after a decline, after a core algorithm update, that's kind of silly. With YMYL, your money, your life, queries, what we want is results that cannot at least harm users' lives, that will not scam them into getting into like a horrible mortgage, for example, that will not tell them that carrot juice can cure their lung cancer, and pretty much that's what I'm willing to say about eating.
So I think it brings up an interesting question. One, I heard linking out to interesting or reputable sites, which was an interesting one. I'm not even going to ask you to comment on whether or not that's a thing or not, but I think it's a nice...
Again, this is in the Reuters guidelines. Like,
so not controversial. And then I guess the question is, how does Google think about trying to rank very relevant content, might score well from a relevant standpoint or whatever you're doing there, which has a very thin link profile. So maybe they don't get a lot of links, they haven't done any link building. How do you go about doing that?
well, links, PageRank and other, PageRank is just one signal out of the hundreds of signals that we use to rank pages. And obviously we use links in other ways as well, but we don't necessarily need the links to rank pages at all. It's harder to see this in the US, but there was someone presenting at the conference in Norway where he brought up some Porsche subpage on Porsche Norway, and he tried a bunch of queries live, and he showed that this page is here. Now this page is here. Now this page, like second, third, first position for different queries involving Porsche. Some of them were mid to high volume queries, and where he was getting was that that page has 0 links, like no links at all, not even from its own site. It was in a sitemap. Later I was looking into it. It was in a sitemap, and basically some of the algorithms could just figure out that for that query, like for example, RankBreak would be able to do this. For that, those specific queries, this page is very likely that one of the best choices. In many cases where we don't have a good understanding of the internet, say Hindi internet, we would need the links because like it makes ranking much easier. In Indonesian, if we don't have links, then it's hard for us to rank properly highly authoritative pages, and spammers get a but especially in English, where we have a good understanding of the web and pages in general, we don't always need, well, not just English, but in like more advanced languages, I guess, and advanced as in where the internet was used for a longer period, more internet mature languages. I guess that would be the weirdest thing that I can come up with.
Link in the footer worth as much as a link in article content. False. Link seen in an article today worth as much as that same link there 2 years later. Agent link, essentially. All things being equal.
I hate this, but that depends.
Okay, I'll take it. I run a site about knitting. A link from another knitting site worth as much as a link from a monster truck rally site.
The knitting site would be more valuable.
Okay. So we talked about this a little bit before. A lot of people are now using span links. Does everybody understand what span links are? Probably not. Some people do, some people don't. But it's basically putting a link in a span instead of an A tag to try and sort of hide that link from Google, or have it rendered just on sort of the JavaScript side. Good idea, bad idea, what is your guidance there?
I'm never going to carry that.
So, I don't like JavaScript. The reason why I don't like JavaScript is that people are developers are overusing it. Basically, for stuff that you can accomplish with CSS and HTML, they are using JavaScript because it's fun.
True. Yeah.
So, it would be nice to not have, to not have links that become, to not have span tags that become links after some JavaScript process them, because for indexing takes as much time to find those links as it took me to actually come up with that sentence. It takes a lot of time. If you care about links that, regardless if they point to your site or someone else's site, then just don't put them in span. Just have an href equals whatever, and then you style it however you like. Like you can make it blank if you want, although some people will hate for it. But I would stay away from spam links. Also spam links, but that's for a different reason. Not because we can't understand them, but because it will take sometimes eons to understand them, or to get to understand them. And basically that's it. It requires rendering. And whatever requires rendering takes time. Sometimes rendering can be delayed for even a month in some probably corner cases, but it can take a long time.
Let's talk about crawl. All right, because I'm kind of a crawl junkie, have been for about a decade. Always like to talk about crawl efficiency, shaping crawl budgets, trying to figure out what Google's crawling, why they're crawling it, and getting more out of it. One of the things John Mueller shared, maybe 5 years ago, he linked to a document which showed that Google was assigning different crawl rates to different folders. So let's say category equals daily, product equals weekly, this other thing is monthly, etc. How does Google go about determining the crawl rate for different parts of a website?
I will turn this question around. If you had to design a system, this is actually one of the basic things that we have. If you had to design a system that does this, how would you do it?
How would I do it? I would look at a number of signals, obviously, speed, the content, link profile. Those would be the major three that I would look at. Okay.
If you look
Generally, it's enough if you look at the links. Like in average over the internet, if you just look at PageRank, for example, and if you average it out over the pattern, the directory, that will be enough.
So we're talking internal links then would be a big way to shape that. Okay, so I hate parameters. It's one of my big bugaboos because they're like empty calories to a Google crawl. That's sort of my version of it.
You can still make patterns. Like even if you just have parameters, you don't actually need. I mean, think about it. The directories for whom are those set up the way they are? For humans, because they need some structure and some visible thing. Parameters are more for machines. Yeah.
Sort order async.
Sure. But you can still make out patterns out of them.
Okay.
For machines, it doesn't matter what's the separator. They can still make out patterns out of those things.
Okay. But what's the optimal way? Wouldn't fragments be a better way to do that? Oh, don't use. Okay, talk to me about that. Why should I not use fragments?
Well, for that you should have Martin here. Martin Split is one of my colleagues. He's focusing only on JavaScript and rendering. Basically, fragments in the URL can get less than ideal results. Fragments were, okay, what were fragments invented for? Basically, if you add a fragment, then you jump to a section of the page. What are JavaScript developers using fragments nowadays? Changing the whole content of the freaking page, because that's, yay, that's the best idea. Fragments were not invented for that. If you don't have something like history API set up properly to actually track and tell clients that the URL changed and this new URL is actually not a fragment but something that just resembles a fragment, then like those pages might not even show up in search results because fragments exist only on client side. They don't get through when we crawl a page. So with history API, you can tell the client that this is the URL right now. But if you don't have, for example, that implemented, then we are not even going to see the new URL. We are just going to see like example.com/spam, this is slash, and then the fragment where you change the content, which changes the content. We are not even going to get there with the crawler.
With rendering, if you get rendering in the picture, then we can.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that there are times when I don't want you to see that. Like that's, right? Like if it's a multi-attribute, right? So shoes that are red, that are size 9, that are on sale, that are patent leather, right? That's a string of stuff that I do not want you to see. I have no reason for it to be there, right? Most sites do this. They use parameters, and then you have to robots text that shit out, and it's just, sorry. Like, it's not good, right? So I would prefer fragments, right? Let's fragment it so that, like, you don't need to see that. That's not for you. Is that okay?
But then we end up on the flip side, that what if we start understanding it? Basically, then you are screwed. Robots.txt is still the best way for that. No follow, again, like even if we said that it will become a hint, it will not become a hint for everyone. It's not like we actually need to, like we know about these things, that people use it for that. Like we wouldn't want to crawl the blue suede shoes parameters because we don't have anything better to do. I would still use robots.txt because you know that with that you have something that was stable for 25 years and worked roughly the same for 25 years, and it's expected to work for the next 25 years. With fragments in the URL, you don't actually know how it will work in the next even year, yes.
Okay. Gary's just sort of crushed me in a number of ways, but most developers, new developers that I talk to, do not understand that parameter URLs are actually different URLs than the base URL, which I find...
I would send them back to you.
Yeah, you and me both. All right, so...
That's very basic web architecture. Like, basic.
Well, I hear you. The problem is that, you know, everybody's writing, you know, in Vue or React, and so they don't really, if they grow up with that, there's not a lot out there. Yeah, I know, you don't like JavaScript. I know, I hear you, We'll get Martin over here, he'll set us straight. All right, so we got 6 minutes. I'm gonna rush through the last one, maybe 2. Let's talk about intent real quick. Intent. So let's say you have a search result and it's got fractured intent, right? And meaning there could be commercial queries, there could be informational commercial results, informational results, other types of things, blog posts, whatever. How does Google determine sort of let's go back to that auction model, right? If I've got a search term and it's like, hey, I don't know, Ford repair in Michigan or in Detroit, right? And maybe there's going to be a couple of local sites, garages, maybe there's going to be YouTube videos, maybe there's going to be some informational sort of websites, maybe there are going to be some community forums, like DIYers, that kind of thing. How do you determine the mix that goes in there?
I think
Or is that a mic it can't talk about?
I'm trying to talk about it. That's the thing. Like, if I didn't want to talk about it, then I would just say I don't know. But I didn't say that. It's like a mistake at this point. So, one of the most important things there will still be tokens, just normal retrieval and normal traditional ranking of tokens. But another thing that most people forget is that we've been using entities for ranking for a very long time. And if you are searching for example, Gary the snail, it's SpongeBob. You actually have to know this, but if you are searching for Gary the snail Amazon, then what do you know from that query? Gary the snail probably has its own entity because it's Gary, so it has to have its own entity. And Amazon, that's, well, you're actually saying that you want that navigational result, which means that we know that Amazon falls, Amazon entity falls in these categories, in these sub-entities. Well, actually, no, not sub-entities. So basically, product, commerce, e-commerce, and probably several other entities. So from there you can figure out that you want product pages. If you are looking for something like
What if I was just looking for Gary the snail?
then if you would look for Gary the snail, then you would probably get, if it has its own entity, then very likely you would get a knowledge panel or something from what is pronounced Nickelodeon, that is related to SpongeBob because Gary the snail is a SpongeBob character.
And I might get that Amazon result because you would have some commerce result, and maybe.
Gary Snail swag or toy.
Yeah, maybe. But in that case, it's less likely, I think. Basically, it would be more likely that you get something that is related to the character itself, not the product. Because at that point, you don't actually know the intent, right? You just search for an entity. Again, if it has its own entity. And at that point, what you do is trying to figure out, like, okay, so what do we need for this query? Is the knowledge panel actually useful or not? And over time, you can actually figure this out for that particular person based on how they interact with the results. Like, for example, if that one person actually changes to, like, searches first for Gary the snail, and then they didn't find the Amazon shopping result, and then they change it to Gary the snail Amazon. Then for us, that's a signal that that one person, and again, that one person is looking for personalization. Basically, they are looking for products for this query, for the previous query, not with the Amazon. This can also seep into RankBrain sometimes, but it's quite unlikely. If you give us an ambiguous query, then basically you get ambiguous results, and then you will have to refine.
All right, that's 7:30.
I have a ton of Google Bot stickers if you want them, if anyone wants them. Actually, probably like 20, so.
Board members first.